All right, we got some breaking news here on SNL. Be sure to subscribe to the new channel. We got you covered. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Number one Texans podcast, which you can subscribe to on all platforms. Now, kind of transitioning to a new channel. Still going to be doing our stuff, but we got some surprises for you in store. Let's just jump right into it. Azeez Al-Shaair, the suspension has been upheld. I think we both, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we both anticipated that it would go from 3-2 and at least like one game would be taken off. But no go. Azeez Al-Shaair will miss 3 games. He'll miss the game against the Dolphins, he'll miss the game against the Chiefs, and he'll miss the game against the Baltimore Ravens.
I definitely expected this to go from 3-2. It felt like the NFL left themselves that ability to take it down from 3-2 games. We saw Denzel Perryman last year, who has a longer history of personal foul conduct and things that the league fines him for. He had a suspension reduced from 3-2, but Azeez Al-Shaair does not get that same courtesy from the NFL. The independent appeals officer decides to keep it at 3. And I don't know that this is the right decision. In fact, I'd say that this is wrong. It felt like 2 fit perfectly, adding in the fact that he already missed half of the game because he was ejected. So 2.5, but it stays at basically 3.5 now. I don't believe this was the right move by the NFL. I feel like there was enough play within the conversation that they could have moved this down to 2.5, but the NFL clearly feels like Azeez Al-Shaair had chance to avoid this hit. They didn't like how he acted after the hit, and they threw the book at him.
I think it was about more than the hit. I think the hit speaks for itself. We know how they are with quarterbacks. I think the stuff after, which I asked Nick Caserio about at his press conference, I think quite frankly, he came across looking like a psycho. Let's be honest. I like the guy. I like talking to him, but like just the optics of what it looked like after the hit. And I know Jacksonville was aggressive and Jacksonville did what they did, but when the camera zoomed in on him, he just looked like a guy who was a little bit crazy, for lack of a better term. And then you start to look back and you see the punch on the sidelines with the Bears. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that I think that factored into the situation. And when we asked the question, what made them stay at 3, I think that's what contributed to it, is that they started looking at other stuff. They saw the way that he left the field and all that, and I think that contributed to it. I think had that happened, had he left the field in perhaps a more timely manner and a little less drama, I think maybe it goes from 3-2. But let's just be honest. Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback and Azeez Al-Shaair is a linebacker, and the quarterback is always going to get the benefit of the doubt. There clearly is a double standard when it comes to the examples that Caserio laid out, but I truly think that the stuff that happened after the hit, whether it was all his fault or not, whether D'Amico Ryans, he says that Jacksonville overreacted. I thought they reacted appropriately. I think that contributed to them kind of keeping it at 3.
I don't feel like that's, if the hit's one game and then that, I don't feel like that was 2 games worth of stuff. I feel like I feel like 2 was an appropriate punishment on this. Yes, it looked bad. Yes, he got up and they made mention of him pulling the Jacksonville player down to the ground by the face mask. I'm sure the NFL has access to sideline audio. They know what was said or some of the conversation there. They probably talked to people on the Jacksonville Jaguars sideline to get a little bit more information on how it went. And then adding the extra there on the end as he was leaving, getting another kerfuffle started. Yeah, that didn't look good, but I don't feel like it should have been 3 games. The NFL's, basically being ironclad that he had no chance, or that he had every chance to pull up or to move or to not hit Trevor Lawrence. I don't know that I agree with that either. I feel like we've had a lot of people who've been around football. I think Tom Brady's probably the biggest name that's like, yeah, kind of a late slide. Like the NFL didn't consider it a late slide, it seems. And so they stuck it at 3. I don't like the history element of this either. I mean, yeah, he punched a guy on the sideline against Chicago. He got fined for that. I mean, yeah, okay, he hit Tony Pollard out of bounds last week, got a personal foul. He got fined for that. Like, how many times do you have to pay for that? I mean, like, how many times?
Joint.
Yeah, how many times does he get punished for that? The guy said 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties in his 5-year career, and they're acting like he brings a gun to the game. Like, I don't understand how the NFL operated this way. 2 made sense. 3 was too much.
Well, I thought Moose Johnston was a total. I mean, it was weird how weird he was acting. I saw this tweet before the news came down, and I was like, okay, this is the goofiest thing I've ever seen. And this is the Ari Myrov guy who's like a big aggregator or whatever. Um, listen to this wording. I thought this was just embarrassingly pathetic by him. And I'm not even a guy who was against the suspension or anything like that, but Trevor Lawrence will miss at least 4 games due to the concussion he suffered, while Azeez Al-Shaair received a 3-game suspension and is appealing to have it reduced. Okay, so he's saying that Trevor Lawrence needs to miss 4 games because of concussion. It has nothing to do with the fact that the Jags right now have the number 1 pick in the draft and they have nothing to play for. Then he says we may never know if Lawrence truly needed 4 games to recover or the hit, or if the Jaguars are simply shoving him with their season already over. Buddy, you just said 2 different things. Like you throw that out there, and then you say we may never know. That is just some total jackassery. And I don't like to like generalize media and like all that, but that is like just total jackassery and goofiness that I saw as the news dropped.
When I saw Trey Wingo say, well, then Al-Shaair shouldn't play until Trevor Lawrence is playing again, or that was sort of Trey Wingo's sentiment. Here's the really,
so from now on, if someone tackles someone and they tear their ACL, then do you have to miss the whole season? Like, are you suspended for the whole season? Like, do these guys even think before they talk? Like Trey Wingo, there's a reason Trey Wingo's not on ESPN anymore. Like, let's just be serious. Like, do these guys even think before they talk?
Here's another thing. He's going on IR because he's having freaking shoulder surgery. Trevor Lawrence is having shoulder surgery. Like, that's why he's going on IR.
Yeah, it's not for the concussion. Like, if the Jags were leading the division, he's not going on IR. That's called being smart. That's called keeping the number 1 pick for maybe the next coach. Yeah. He should have to miss. So that's the precedent you want to set. Like, you're sitting there talking about precedents. So if someone tackles someone and they tear their ACL, do they have to miss the whole season? Is that how that works? Like, let's just stop being stupid. I know. I mean, the Myrov guy's an aggregator, so I get it. And he has like the awkward. Yeah. Well, in the NFL, that was a good thing going. Like, and Trey Wingo's Trey Wingo. But come on, let's just be serious. Let's be serious about this.
Here's a question that I have for you: is sticking at 3. Did Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans hurt Azeez Al-Shaair's chances to go to 2?
I think D'Amico did. I know he had talked to the league before, but I think saying that the Jags overreacted was a bad approach. I actually thought that Caserio handled it better than D'Amico did. And he said he was very firm. I'm sure that they didn't like the way he said it, but he came with actual facts. He came with actual stuff. I thought D'Amico, from the defensive point of view, which is kind of symbolic of his coaching right now, where the defense is just so much light years ahead of the offense. It's kind of funny. Like, D'Amico's defense is like so much more well coached. It doesn't matter if players are hurt. The offense is very like inconsistent and all that. Yeah. And then when he goes up there and he gives the point of view, it's from the defensive point of view. He kind of nailed it. Like, he's right. It is tough for Al-Shaair to do what he's doing. It's tough for a defensive player. The quarterbacks do make it difficult. So I thought he did a good job on that. But I thought Caserio did a good job of prefacing his statement with saying the most important thing is that Trevor Lawrence is okay. And he also gave like the specific examples, which I thought was a really good case. Like, I think if it were a real court case and there were a jury, I think that, and this isn't a jury. What's the line with Goodell back in the day? Judge, jury, executioner, or whatever. Right. If it had been a jury, I think Nick Caserio would have done an excellent job as an attorney laying out specifics. I think D'Amico would have been a good character witness from the defensive point of view. But as far as like D'Amico's saying what he said about the Jags, I don't think that helped at all. I actually thought that was probably the worst display of anything that we've seen from the Texans camp since this thing went down.
Yeah, because it felt like Caserio was sort of explaining that was a one-off, and that's not who Al-Shaair is post-play. Like, they've never said he shouldn't be suspended for the hit. Right. Like, we've never said that. Like, it's a hit that, in the way the NFL is legislated now, suspend the guy. Like, right. I felt like a suspension was coming the moment I saw it. But it feels like they don't like the way he's been characterized post-hit Now, Azeez didn't do himself any favors by starting something up again as he was leaving the field. That wasn't good, but they acted like he was just like he's this all the time. I feel like that's where Caserio sort of attacked the reason
Well,
that he was suspended.
well,
And
the
I've had sort of the three-prong approach. The hit got him one, the reaction got him one, the history got him one. I don't know that the history should have been the one that kind of stuck around. Maybe the NFL's approach was the hit got him one, the initial sideline reaction got him one, and the second sideline
No,
reaction.
the NFL sounded just as dumb as Wingo and that Myrov guy. Like they sounded just as dumb. And just to preface, I'm a guy who said it was going to be a 3-game suspension. I thought it was a dirty hit. I still think it's difficult to avoid. I understand all points of view. Sometimes you're asked to not make dirty hits, and it's hard not to do. Like we can get into semantics over what the word dirty mean, but the NFL putting what they put out in that third paragraph was a joke. Yeah. Like that was really where the joke kind of got. That's the character assassination. Like we can go on Twitter, we can go on the media, and we can get all kinds of opinions. So if you function in a world where people are saying this or people said that, and you're not giving a specific of what they said, then you're always going to have that straw man to pull into an argument. Like people are saying this about Al-Shaair, people are saying that about Al-Shaair, blah, blah, blah. That's going to happen. But when the NFL comes out and puts it out the way they did, I thought that was unprofessional as hell. And I don't think that helps the case and protects players. And that, to me, is the most disgraceful thing. It's not even necessarily the suspension. If you want to make an example of someone because you want to protect quarterbacks, that's fine. I get that. But to put out that type of statement, disrespect for the game, the coaches, all that kind of that bullshit that Caserio mentioned, that was garbage by the NFL. That was where I thought the NFL got it wrong. Like we can argue all day about the suspension, and I thought Caserio did a good job of the double standard. And we can go back and we can look at the Chicago punch. But I think the thing that the NFL got the most wrong was they sounded like emotional slime balls in that final paragraph instead of just handling it and doing what they had to do.
Holier than thou too. I mean, and I get he's not a player anymore, but the guy that says it is a well-known dirty player from his playing days in John Runyon. Quickly, and I want to talk about the games that he's missing. Did it matter to you at all that it was Ramon Foster?
No.
Who is a former offensive lineman and a current Tennessee Titans radio,
which is weird,
sideline guy.
I actually thought that might help him, to be honest with you. But I think we agree. Caserio and D'Amico, they didn't necessarily help the case in the Ryan thing. But I actually thought that depending on how long he was the Titans broadcast, I thought that might have actually helped Al-Shaair because I've never heard a teammate, I've never heard a coach say anything other than awesome things about him. And I think Al-Shaair is going to do a really good job. Like once he's able to talk to us and talk to the media, I think he's going to do a good job of making his case and saying that's not how I play the game and stuff like that. And he'll still have haters, and he's got permanent haters, and there's a permanent perception of him, whether it's true or not. I'm not his character coach. I've always enjoyed talking to him, and I've never heard anyone say glowing. But I actually thought that the fact that the guy worked for the Titans would actually perhaps help because he was there last year.
The fact that he works for a team in the division, he shouldn't have been allowed to. He shouldn't have been allowed to do this.
That's a fact. Not just a team, the rival.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been allowed to do this.
A rival.
Like there's 3 other players, and I get that it's a random draw. Like it's my understanding is the random draw and who gets it. There's 3 other players.
Just give it to Jordy Nelson. Just give it to Jordy Nelson.
Jordy Nelson made the most sense because Jordy Nelson is not a Titans employee. He's not a linebacker like Derek Brooks, who's the only defensive player that could have done it. And Kevin Mawai played for the Titans and coached for the Colts. Yeah. So why not give it to Jordy Nelson, who has no interest from his past in this at all?
I don't know. It was weird. It was weird. And also, I mean, Amy Adams is kind of writing the checks for that guy, and we know how she feels. So it was weird. Do you think the injury, like if Trevor Lawrence hadn't gotten carted off, do you think that kind of added to
if it was Lawrence's already injured shoulder got injured more and he couldn't come back in, then I feel like the injury doesn't affect anything. But most people, and as this conversation went down with the appeals process, most people believe that Lawrence wasn't playing anytime soon because of a concussion. And so he's carted off. with the concussion. He was playing through the shoulder injury, so that clearly wasn't that bad at the moment. So the perception was he wasn't playing football anytime soon because of the concussion. That certainly hurt Azeez's case as well. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that wasn't one of the most violent hits we'd seen in recent memory. It was nasty. Lawrence, sometimes you hear about guys' heads bouncing off the ground. His didn't bounce. His just hit the ground and stayed. And I was like, oh, man. Like, it was a bad hit. And so Lawrence laying there for a while, getting carted off. Yeah, that didn't help the case either.
Yeah, did not help the case at all. What about the snowball effect down the depth chart? Pressure on Henry Toto and Devin White and Neville Hewitt. I would say yes, but we've seen them step up in Al-Shaair's absence. And the reality is, like, all the complaints you have about the Texans, I think the defense is very well coached. The linebackers are extremely well coached. So I think that there's obviously pressure, but I don't think there's any like panic here.
I'm not as worried about like stopping the run. Would it be nice to have Azeez Al-Shaair back for the Baltimore game if they'd gone from 3-2? Sure. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, that's a tough task. You don't have him for that game now because it stayed at 3. I'm not as worried. I'm worried about them. I'm worried about opposing teams doing something that we saw the Jaguars do in the second half, which is put those linebackers in compromising coverage positions. Devin White's really the only one that I kind of fully trust in that situation. But you're going to put Neville Hewitt on the field with Henry Toto sometimes. So that's something that DeMeco Ryans has to mitigate, coach around. Oh, by the way, you've already got Eric Murray on the field too, because Jimmy Ward's playing the nickel spot because Jalen Petre's hurt. So there's a little bit of moving parts to kind of maybe pay attention to or worry about.
Good
but
point.
from half of it, I'm not super worried about the run stopping. Those guys can take care of to the same level that are very close to the same level that they had when Al-Shaair was in there.
Does this galvanize the team? Is there kind of a silver lining here where it gives the team something to rally around? I think it definitely gives them some juice and some kick that they definitely needed along with the rest. So it does give them at least something to rally around that is actually tangible and right there in front of them, not like dig deep and figure out what we got to do. Like, it gives you something to actually rally around. Whether or not that happens, I don't know, but I do definitely think the team's going to be extra fired up about this. And once Al-Shaair comes back, you kind of have some natural juice, and hopefully the division is wrapped up for their sake, or else, I mean, who knows what that would mean in a 3-week stretch.
This is one of the easiest playoff pump-up speeches that you could do. You have Azeez Al-Shaair get in the middle of the circle of players right before the game, and he's like, they tried to take this away from me. They tried to take this away from me, and now those guys want to take this away from us. We're not giving up anything. And he just goes crazy.
The hardest part about not playing here and not playing the last 3 weeks, it wasn't about the money. It was about not being with my brothers right here, fighting every day with you guys, giving it all we got. Boom. Break.
Yeah. Texans football. There you go.
Yep. It'll be an elite pump-up speech.
It will be. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Y'all been following SNL throughout the year. You've been following my channel for a few years, Cody's channel for a few years. The podcast numbers through the roof. You can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. We're still doing the channel as is on our channels. Eventually, we're gonna transition over to the SNL channel, which we would really appreciate you subscribing to right here. It's free, same coverage, even more. We got some good stuff planned for you, especially once the draft comes around. So we got you covered. And always remember, when it comes to this Texans coverage, whether it's 3 games, whether it's 2 games, whether it's no games, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good, except for you, John Runyon. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks, everybody.